1 part out of 3. Okay, 3 equal parts. This one is split into how many? Well done, it's 6. Oh, hi boys and girls. Thanks for joining us. Do you want to learn about fractions and equivalent fractions? Excellent. Then let's get ready to shine and learn. So the fractions that I was looking at with Gloria were thirds and sixths. We're going to investigate those further today. So the first thing we're going to think about is you need some strips of paper, okay? They're really good for equivalent fractions. I've got some here already, okay? You don't have to use different colours if you haven't got different coloured paper. Just white paper or whatever you've got is fine. I'm doing this really so it's easier for you to distinguish and to see the equivalent fractions, okay? Now, so when we've got our strips of paper, we need to make them look like this. We're going to start with quarters first of all. So I'm going to draw right the last fraction on there, and I'll show you how I did that. So to make quarters, there are 4 equal parts. Folded the strip of paper in half, and then I've folded it in half again. Okay, so when we open that out, we've then got 4 equal parts. For eighths, we've folded it in half, as we did for the quarters one we were doing then. I folded it in half again, and then I folded in half again. So when we open up the paper this time, there we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 equal parts. So we're folding it that way for thirds. We've done the same for thirds, but then folding in half again to get 6 because it halves each third. And then fifths, quite tricky. So folded in the edge of the paper, so it looks about the same section there. So we've got one that's the same, that's equal or equivalent in the middle, and then fold it there. That's a bit trickier, so have a little practice. And then for the tenths, we've taken the fifths and then halved it again. There, and then halved again. Okay, so those are all our fractions. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the equivalent fractions. So let's start with halves and quarters. And a half is 1 part of 2. Well done if you got that. We could cut these up if you want to, or we can just fold. Now I want to see how many quarters is equivalent to a half. So if I can match that up, I can see, I can fold that behind, and that shows me how many quarters are equal to a half. Excellent work, boys and girls. 2 quarters are equal to 1 half. Well done. How many eighths are equivalent to half, I wonder? So again, we can fold until we've got the right amount. Is it that many? No, that's too much. So we'll fold another. Again, you could cut these up. There we go. How many eighths are equal to half? Well done, that's 4 eighths. Remember, we had 2 quarters. So they are all equivalent fractions. Brilliant work, boys and girls. Next thing we can do is explore thirds and sixths. Okay, so we can find how many sixths are equivalent to 2 thirds, I wonder. So again, we're going to measure that and see. Ooh, there we go, fold that one behind. How many sixths? Brilliant work, boys and girls, you're so good today. 4 sixths are equivalent to 2 thirds. Now, fifths and tenths, we can do the same. Exploring how many tenths are equivalent to, let's say, 4 fifths. So here's my 10th line. See, this is easier if you do it on the carpet or the floor or the table. And it goes to there, fold them behind. We can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths are equivalent to 4 fifths. Now, when you start to write those fractions down, and if you have a look at them on the screen here, hopefully you'll start to see the relationship between the numerator as it is equivalent to each of those fractions. The next thing we can do. Okay, now we can start to explore which fractions are larger or smaller than other fractions. So is 1/4 larger or smaller than 1/5? Now when we think of those numbers, we know that 5 is bigger than 4, don't we? So is 1/5 bigger than 1/4? Let's see. So again, fold up the fifths fraction line, get your quarter, put them on top so we can see that direct comparison. They've got to be equal, so they've got to be at the same point to start, like a ruler measuring. What do you think, boys and girls? Absolutely spot on. 1/4 is bigger than 1/5, even though 4 is smaller than 5. When we're splitting things into fractions, they're getting smaller each time we cut them, aren't they? So fifths are smaller than quarters. How about 2/5? Let's have a look at 2/5. Do you think 2/5 is larger or smaller than 1/4? Well done, 2/5 is larger. Is 1/3 bigger than 1/2? Is it a larger fraction or a smaller fraction? 1/2 is larger, isn't it? If you're splitting that pizza or that chocolate in half, 1/3, I want half, do you? Great work, boys and girls. Carry on using those fraction lines to investigate lots of different fractions, which are larger and smaller. And if you're working on fractions work at school or doing homework, or you're working at home doing fractions, have yourself some strips of paper, label up those fractions and see if you can work out the equivalents and the larger and smaller fractions. One more cool thing to remember when we're looking at equivalent fractions, boys and girls, with those fraction strips you've made, is we can make a fraction wall. And always remember that those fraction strips that you've made are equal to one whole. So each strip is equivalent to one whole. Imagine it's a chocolate bar or a cake or a long pizza. The best way to think about it is always food. Don't forget, if you've enjoyed the video, give us a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and share where you can, boys and girls. Don't forget to shine and learn.